104.5 The Team, your home for New York Jets football, and the voice of the Jets team right now, Bob Wischusen, joins us. Bob, this Jets team is not only winning games, but they're super competitive in the ones that they're losing. Why have they been able to achieve so well this year?
Good question. I think that it's fair to say that they're better than we thought they were. They made a couple of moves right at the end of camp that flew under the radar as far as the league was concerned, but have been big factors for them. Bringing in Jermaine Kearse and Jeremy Curley, that was big for the wide receiver room. They had little to zero experience in that room, and all of a sudden you add two guys that have played a long time in the league and are pros. So that gave, the offense a little credibility. The offensive line has played better than we expected, and Josh McCown, while it's not, he's not going to make anybody forget, Dan Marino or Joe Montana, he is at least a capable professional quarterback that gets you in and out of the huddle and gets you lined up and gets you in the right play. And, there's a reason that he's been in the league for as long as he has. So, yes, they have been competitive. But, to put it in its proper perspective, they beat Jacksonville off their week in London. They beat Cleveland, and they beat Miami at home. So now they've lost 3 in a row, and, this is not going to be an easy game tomorrow night.
Who deserves the most credit within this organization for why they've been so good? Is it Todd Bowles?
Well, you have to give him credit. This was a team that was supposed to be not only, a 2 or 3 win team maybe, and they've already won 3, but non-competitive in a fair number of their games. People were thinking that by the time we got to this point in the season, they were going to be double-digit underdogs every week. And, I guess if the true measuring stick for them this year is just being competitive and, seeing development out of the young players and looking like a team that's well coached, he's 8 for 8 so far. They have not been out of one game so far this year. It's not been one game, even the games they've lost, where they have not been extremely competitive. And the last 3 games, they've lost them all, and they've had leads in the fourth quarter. So I get why, some fans and some media, no matter the ability level of the team, they're going to look at teams blowing fourth quarter leads as being something that someone should be held accountable for. I go the other way. I'm trying to look at this from a macro point of view and wide-angle lens and player development, what this year was really supposed to be about for them. I think he's doing an amazing job against these teams to even have a lead in the fourth quarter, to be able to play well enough for 3.5 quarters that with 8 or 10 minutes to go, they're right in the game with a chance to beat teams like the Patriots and Falcons. And those are 2 of the 3 last teams they've lost to them. They've had fourth quarter leads against the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year in the last 3 weeks. Right. So, yeah, I think you have to give him credit when you really look wide-angle lens at the level of talent that he has on his team and what he's getting out of them every week. He doesn't take any solace in that. He wants to win, but I think someone that looks at it from an objective point of view, like we can, instead of a subjective point of view, like he has to, I don't know. What does someone have a realistic, right to expect out of this team?
Bob Wischusen, voice of the Jets, with us right now, 104.5 The Team. Bob, I'm with you. When you think about it, this is 2 out of 3 years where he's had a team that's looked competitive and basically, in my eyes, kind of overachieved. Rich Tomini joined us before the season started, said he was, quote, dead man coaching. That's not the case anymore, right?
It shouldn't be. Again, and all you can go on, and that's just speculation from the media standpoint, because ownership has never once said anything that would lead you to believe that, they've gone the other way in terms of the public statements. Christopher Johnson, of course, is filling in for Woody Johnson, who's now, he's the ambassador to the UK.
Yeah.
So he's kind of turned over the day-to-day responsibilities, and I'm sure Woody's obviously going to be involved, and, there'll be a conference call that will involve him if they thought about making a coaching or GM change. But if Christopher Johnson is true to his word and is echoing what Woody Johnson wants to see from this team this year, he said at the start of the year, this is not about wins and losses. That's not what the coach is going to be judged on. The coach is going to be judged on, competitiveness, development of young players, and really kind of, are you passing the eye test as a team that's building through the draft and building towards something in the future? And with all of the older guys that they cut, all kind of heading either to other teams where they're not contributing in the NFL or guys that are just out of the league. And to me, it certainly looks like they made mostly the right veteran personnel decisions, and it looks like they're building a foundation. And, good organizations have stability. Why would you want to have this organization have a coaching staff that builds what you think they ought to be building, and then after they get done building it, let them go? Right. So, who knows what could happen over the next 8 games? They start losing 42-3, and it really goes downhill, and there's backbiting in the locker room and all those kinds of things. Yes, obviously, there's still 3 months' worth of work for this coaching staff to do, but I think the early returns have to be that he's doing what anybody would realistically expect, would kind of be categorized as a good job with this talent level.
And remember, you can hear the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills tomorrow right here on 104.5. The team you talk about building for the future, developing young players. That makes me think about the quarterback position. Although McCown's playing fine right now, guys like Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg are on the bench. Do we know what their future is going to look like in 2017 and beyond?
No. That's, there are so many variables that factor into that. What do those quarterbacks that are playing college football right now look like for the rest of the year, and what do the Jets think of them? Where are they picking? If they're picking 6th or 7th, and one of those teams like San Francisco that just made the Garoppolo trade, or a team like Chicago is towards the top of the draft, and obviously they're not taking a quarterback. They just did it last year. What would they have to mortgage to go get one of those guys? But I would say right now, the odds that their quarterback for next season, or the guy that they would want their quarterback to be next season, is currently on the roster, is about 1,000 to 1. The reason that Josh McCown is the quarterback is because neither of the other two guys showed enough to warrant that. Todd Bowles is about competition. Regardless of the position, he doesn't just hand someone the position. You don't get the quarterback position just because you were a second-round draft choice and just because the team is in a rebuilding mode. It's very hard for a head coach, I think, to stand in front of a room full of professionals and tell all of those guys, I want your blood, sweat, and tears in the weight room, at the training table, in the meeting room, at OTAs and mini camp and training camp and practice every week, and you guys got to give me your all, and we're going to go to war together, but we're all going to look over here and start a quarterback that we know isn't good enough and kind of flush the season because of it. You lose your locker room that way. So the other veterans on this team, I think, at least while they're still being competitive, are owed Josh McCown being the quarterback because neither of the other two guys has taken it. So, I don't think the future at quarterback is on the team right now.
Bob Wischusen, voice of the Jets, with us right here on 104.5, the team, your home for the Jets. Bob, 2 out of 3 years now, they've gone into the season with a retread at quarterback. Fitzpatrick, now McCown. I'm starting to think that, just wait and see what old veteran quarterback is out there and build up the other spots.
Yeah, well, that hasn't gotten them to the playoffs. It certainly hasn't gotten them over top against the Patriots. No, they have done that against their own wishes. Remember, 2 years ago, Geno Smith was supposed to be the starter, and then he got decked in the locker room, and all of a sudden, Ryan Fitzpatrick gets the job and has the first above 500 year of his career. He had never had an above 500 season as a starter, and all of a sudden they went 10-6. And if they had beaten the Bills in the last week of the season, they would have been in the playoffs. So it's hard to then turn around the following year and say, you know what, we went 10-6 last year, but flush that. We're just going to start over. The fans and the other players on the team, they wanted to give it another swing last year. That obviously didn't work out. This year, in weeks 2 and 3 of the preseason, they started Hackenberg.
Right.
Normally in week 2 and 3 of the preseason, you start your presumptive starter at quarterback. So they gave him every opportunity in training camp to win the job. He didn't win it. Just didn't perform well enough. So again, they had no choice but to go to McCown. So I think circumstances, Geno getting decked 2 years ago, or opportunity not being seized by a young quarterback on the team have compelled them to play guys that are veteran players that they don't necessarily want to play. But no, they want to solve the quarterback problem for the long term. They know Josh McCown isn't it. They know that. So, I think they're, in their heart of hearts, they want to draft a guy next year. That was, I think, the plan all along. But, there are a lot of variables that go into who you can draft, where you're drafting, who you have to deal with, how much you have to give up to move up in the draft if that's necessary, and in the end, how much you like any of these guys that are in college football right now based on how they're playing.
Thursday night football, Bills, Jets. The Jets pull off this upset if they do what Thursday night?
Well, the recipe for success for the Bills all season has been turnovers. So, I mean, the Jets, when they have played clean and they haven't turned it over, have either won or had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter against really good teams and lost. So the Bills, I think, are working on, 5 straight weeks of at least 3 takeaways? Yeah. If they do that tomorrow night, they're going to win. And the Jets know that. You can't give it away 3 times when you're not a team that's going to probably generate 3 turnovers and expect to win. So they have to play clean. The penalties have killed them. I mean, they're averaging about 90 yards in penalties per game, and they don't have an explosive enough offense to overcome that. So to me, that's it. I mean, I think that what they have shown is that they're better than we thought they were. And, between the 20s, I think they have a chance to compete just about every week. But they have to avoid the things that have been hurting themselves, which is giveaways in crucial moments and penalties. If they play clean tomorrow night, then I would expect a pretty good game with about 6 minutes to go.
Love it. Voice of the Jets, Bob Wischusen, with us right now. And, Bob, we appreciate you making some time for us and looking forward to hearing your call right here on the team.
You got it.